topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to my radio and TV show, Debi Changes Lives. I'm Debi, your certified holistic health coach. I revitalize people's lives by helping them identify the root causes of their health issues and create a custom, natural, holistic strategy to address them in areas of mind, body, and soul. As a health coach, I'm not allowed to say that I heal, treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any diseases. I certainly can make your body more efficient by reducing symptoms. You'll enjoy life more and be more productive. So, another thing I want to say is that, did you know that the intermittent fasting actually helps you benefit your gut and improve your mood? It does. And why fast? The intermittent fasting program that gets your body and cells humming and boosts your metabolism. It is rich with high dense nutrition and nutrients, and it has a whole program behind it with exercise and as well as recipes. It is a natural part of all my programs, and it can be done as a standalone. It's quite easy. But if you need some guidance or you want to ask me questions, you're welcome to reach out to me at my link tree, which is https://Debi, DEBI, changes, CHANGS, lives, LIVES.com /linktree, LINKTREE, all in lowercase, and check the consultation button. You can also use my link tree to send me an email to get my #1 Amazon best-selling book, Women Rising, which is a collection of many women's transformation stories, including my own. It's a great book for someone that's struggling to see a light at the end of the tunnel. A copy is $20 and a signed copy is $25. Once I get your email and payment, I'll send that book off to you and you'll enjoy it. And I can help guide you with a clean, toxic-free diet, as well as help you with weight release and mindset coaching with my Take Your Body Back. It is a 12-week program that's done on Zoom. And the first week is actually onboarding, where we talk about your health, and you get to choose between 2 different programs. I give you directions, and I also give you an idea of how to create that avatar board, a new version of you that you want to be at the end of your health journey. They'll drive you with emotion and passion to achieve your weight and health transformation. I do have other mindset tools I use, and I help you release your negative patterns that you have in the past. Now, depending on the program that you choose, whether it's a group coaching program or individual coaching, the rest of the Zoom meetings are handled the exact same way. So we will celebrate your wins. We will look at gaps that you have and help you get over your obstacles. And we will also help you with your mindset. And you'll be using that avatar board to drive you to achieve your weight release and health transformation. The cost is different between the group session and the private session. And what I got to tell you is that you can either watch previous episodes of my show, especially the holistic care show, self-care show, or you can ask me questions on my link tree for more information. I am a strong advocate of gut health, and I believe the gut is the core of our well-being. 70% of our immunity is in our gut, and there is a brain-gut connection along the vagus nerve. So it's really crucial to have a healthy gut. I am so honored to have Dr. Joanne Conaway on my show today because I actually read her book and I've learned so much about it. And she is a naturopathic physician who is also an international acclaimed speaker. She discussed how she links digestive health to immunity and hormone issues, and the book is called Why America is So Sick. Dr. Joanne Conaway um, started off getting a bachelor's degree in science and nursing in 1976. She is a nurse that's been involved in ER, trauma, operating room critical care, infection control, cardio care, of course, nursing education and management. And she spent several years as a nutritional support coach for those who couldn't eat by mouth anymore and were getting their nutrition through a feeding tube intravenously. This experience sparked her passion to help people understand the importance of a healthy diet and a healthy digestive system. Dr. Joanne Conaway is a retired lieutenant colonel who spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force and Reserves. Many of those years, she was an aero medical evacuation nurse and being uncomfortable for caring for patients following the mainstream medical model. After learning so much about an all-natural approach, Dr. Joanne Conaway retired from nursing, went back to school, and became a naturopathic physician. We'll be discussing what I call the gut factor, because the gut links to your brain and all these different body systems. So let's welcome Dr. Joanne Conaway, a naturopathic physician. Dr. Conaway, thank you for being on my show.
Well, Debbie, it's a pleasure. I am so excited to be here with you today.
Oh, wonderful. Can you tell our audience, what is the gut microbiome?
Sure. The gut microbiome, a lot of people will ask about bacteria in the gut. And people say, for a long time, we said we shouldn't have bacteria in the gut. It's not healthy to have bacteria in the gut. And when I say we would say that, conventional medicine or mainstream medicine primarily would say that, because when we look at the gut microbiome and what it truly is, we recognize that the bacteria in the gut is something that has been recognized and studied by naturopathic physicians since the early 1900s. We really got into significant study as new technologies came on board. So much of what I've learned over the last 20 years wasn't even known 40 years ago. And now it's mainstream. Okay. And by mainstream, I mean people who pay attention to this recognize it. So the microbiome, your answer to your question, what is the gut microbiome? The gut microbiome is simply the mix of healthy strains of bacteria, unhealthy strains of bacteria, strains of yeast or fungus, parasites, all of these things that actually exist together in our digestive systems. And it's really fascinating because many people think, oh my gosh, I don't want fungus or yeast in my gut. A lot of people don't realize every one of us has candida in our systems. And the research that's being done now is actually demonstrating that candida, along with healthy bacteria, is part of what helps us digest and break down our foods so efficiently. Now, that's only if the good, healthy bacteria is prolific and able to support the function of the candida. If not, people can develop a candida overgrowth. So it's important to understand that there must be a balance. And that's where I have focused my study for so many years. It's not saying get rid of all the bad. It's not saying get rid of all the yeast. It's saying balance what's in the gut, because it's balance that's going to help keep us healthy. And when we think about it from the standpoint you actually mentioned in your opening, from the standpoint of our immune system, it depends on what studies you read, but 70 to 80% of our immunity is in our digestive systems.
Yeah, it
And
is.
if we don't have a healthy digestive system, we don't have a healthy immune system. Now, we've known this for a long, long time. The more fascinating piece, in my opinion, is the link that is now being made to, as you pointed out, the gut brain connection. But we now have a gut kidney connection, a gut liver connection, a gut reproductive system connection. We now know that a healthy gut is actually linked to every other system in the body. And so if your gut is not healthy, if your gut is imbalanced, then you're not healthy.
Yes. So that, we're trying to teach people how to really understand how to keep it healthy. But can you give us some details of what people can do?
Sure. It's interesting because this is a big leap for many people, because I have people say to me all the time, how can what's going on in my gut impact my skin, for example? Okay.
Mhm,
How can what's going on in my gut impact my brain? How can I have brain fog because of what's happening in my gut? And so,
mhm,
what people need to recognize is, yes, this is relatively new in our understanding with respect to the function of the human body and how different systems in the human body function. This is new. However, it is reality. And yeah, I was talking to someone just today, and it's really fascinating. This is an individual I've known for quite some time, and she said, "You can knock me across the room, but don't do it until after I tell you what I'm going to tell you." She said, "I've been having some gut issues, and I started doing some research, and everything that I've looked at says exactly what you've been telling me for 11 years." She said, "I kept saying to myself, oh my gosh, Joanne's been telling me this for 11 years." It's something that just, and we talked about the fact that sometimes it just does not register with people, that what's
mhm,
happening in your gut can impact every other system in the body. So, what can we do? Well, we need to make sure that we're maintaining a healthy gut. We need to make sure that we're maintaining balance. So, what does that mean? Well, one of the things that we know is your good, healthy bacteria in the gut depend on good, healthy foods.
yes.
And we also know that good, healthy bacteria is impacted in a very negative way if you're not eating a healthy diet. If
Yes.
you're consuming gluten, if you're consuming genetically engineered or genetically modified foods, if you're consuming foods that are loaded with preservatives and food colorings and things like this, all of those things impact the good, healthy bacteria. Now, add to that so many of the other things that we're exposed to. For example, if you have to take a course of antibiotics, you take a course of antibiotics. Those antibiotics are very efficient at killing bacteria. They kill primarily the good bacteria, which will ultimately allow for an overgrowth of the bad bacteria. And when that happens, and we have an overgrowth of the bad bacteria or an overgrowth of the fungus or yeast, like we said, the candida, that's when people can get into trouble.
Mm,
So just because we say, all right, we're going to do everything we can to eliminate this bacterial infection with an antibiotic, it can't stop there. We have to go beyond that. And we have to recognize that when you're taking that antibiotic, yes, you're killing that bacterial infection wherever it is, in your throat, in your toe, in your finger, wherever it is, but you're also killing the bacteria in your gut. The other
yes.
thing that has been a major issue for the last several decades, and we're finally turning the corner on this, is the use of antibacterial everything.
Yeah.
Antibacterial soap, antibacterial mouthwash, the list goes on and on and on. And so what we're doing is we are killing all bacteria that is beneficial and healthy. And so now, especially when we talk about children, for example, children who are trying to colonize their guts, and that's what we call it, colonizing the gut. Children who are trying to colonize their guts with all kinds of good bacteria and benefit from the things that are in their environment. If everything is sterile because mom is using antibacterial everything, then that baby is not going to be exposed to many of the healthy organisms that can ultimately keep their gut healthy. So, one of the things that I do want to bring up, and this is something that has come up in conversation frequently, people will talk to me about the difference between a baby being born vaginally and being born by cesarean section. Is there a difference? And the answer to that is yes, definitely. And you know this. But the difference is when a baby is born vaginally, the baby comes through the birth canal. And as that baby opens its mouth and takes its first breath, it inhales a bunch of mom's bacteria. This is precisely the way nature intended. If a baby is born cesarean section, on the other hand, then baby is born into a sterile environment, taken from the operating room to the nursery, and their guts begin to colonize with the bacteria from the staff in the nursery or other babies in the nursery, and not from mom's bacteria. And then we take it one step further, and mom elects not to breastfeed. So now baby's still not being exposed to mom's bacteria, which again is what nature intended. And so, yes, there is a difference. There's a big difference between the health of a child born cesarean section, born vaginally. Okay. Now, I'm not being critical of cesarean section if the health of the mom or the baby is at risk. What I'm critical of is the scheduled C-section. The C-section where mom says, I want my baby born on this date. I want this doctor, this nurse. We can do it. I used to be an operating room director. I think back and I think about how many times I set up C-section deliveries so that a woman could have precisely that. The baby born, specific day, specific time, specific doctor, specific nurse. I did it many, many times. That's not the healthiest for the baby. And what we're also learning is that mom's bacterial balance during pregnancy can also impact baby's bacterial balance. So, what we want to do is make sure that that balance is, in fact, started as it should be from the very beginning. Go ahead.
I wish I had that opportunity, knowing all this information many, many moons ago when I gave birth to my son. And everybody, it's when you're born, you you gain your mom's healthy bacteria, but it's also your unique fingerprint in health. And over time, it changes depending on what you're exposed to and what you eat.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you can't help it when your gut microbiome gets damaged if you're eating in a restaurant where you don't know how they cook, because I'm very sensitive to oils and I don't know they're doing that.
Right.
And it does a ringer to me. And so I have to do things to, fix myself up afterwards. Other than the gluten and the oils, is there anything else that would damage their gut microbiome?
Well, like we said, the gluten, genetically modified foods, it's unreal how genetically modified foods can impact the gut health. Also, interestingly enough, taking medications of any kind, over the counter medications, prescription medications, not only the antibiotics, like I talked about, also a big impact is made by steroid therapy, but
Yes.
antibiotics, steroids, most medications damage the good bacteria. And especially when we start talking about things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, things that people take all the time, like ibuprofen and Motrin and things like that. They don't think about what impact that drug might have on the rest of the body. They're trying to get rid of their pain. And there's a lot of research that is demonstrating just how damaging non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like Motrin or ibuprofen can actually be on gut health.
Yeah, and they don't, because it's over the counter, they don't think of it as a drug, even though it
That's right.
is.
That's right. The
It's
other thing
pathetic.
is the use of antacid medications.
Yes.
Another thing that's over the counter, and you're absolutely right. People think since it's over the counter, it's benign. But, when I lecture on GERD and, gastroesophageal reflux disease and the importance of maintaining a good, healthy balance in the body so that you don't develop a GERD situation, one of the really important things that I stress for people is don't just start taking all these medications because they're over the counter, because the unfortunate thing for you is you may have a serious problem that you're masking the symptoms of.
Yes.
So don't just willy-nilly start taking these medications thinking, these will help me. They help with my acid indigestion, so I must be getting better. Not
Yes.
true. Okay. And the
Yeah.
thing that is even more concerning there is it used to be you could only get like a Tums or a Rolaids or an Alka-Seltzer or Pepto-Bismol over the counter. But now you can get some of the H2 blockers over the counter, like your
Mhm.
Zantac and your Tagamet. And these are even more severe in terms of what they do to reduce stomach acid. And when you reduce stomach acid, that has a very negative impact on the environment in the gut, literally the environment in the gut. The environment in the gut depends on what is broken down by that acid. You eliminate that acid and you can't break down foods. People don't realize that taking an antacid medication, the Tums and Rolaids and things like that, they don't stop acid production. They just kind of neutralize the acid. But when you start taking an H2 blocker, what you're doing is you're actually decreasing the amount of acid that is available to break down food. And people think that taking an H2 blocker, for example, is what I need to stop the acid from flowing back up into my esophagus and causing me problems. What they
Mhm.
don't understand is by taking that H2 blocker, they are not able to break down the initial bonds of protein. They're not able to assimilate calcium and B vitamins. They're not able to assimilate many of the minerals and trace minerals that the body must have. So when
Mhm.
people start taking these drugs, they start to develop all kinds of other symptoms throughout the body. And the reason is because the body isn't getting the nutrition that it needs from the food that they're eating because there's not enough hydrochloric acid. Take it one step further and start taking a proton pump inhibitor. Proton pump inhibitors actually eliminate 99% of acid production in the body.
Oh, that's not good.
No, you take a proton pump inhibitor, and I've worked with several people just in the last few months who have historically done very well on the supplements and not had a problem or an issue with joint pain. But all of a sudden, they were prescribed by their doctor a proton pump inhibitor, and now they're starting to have joint pain. Yeah, and it's because they're not able to get the calcium from the supplements that they're taking. And so
Wow.
there is a direct link or a direct correlation between what you're putting into your body in terms of a drug or a medication and how it impacts the rest of your body, and especially in the situation of a medication like a GERD medication. So there's so much research that says fix the balance of the microbiome in your gut and you can fix that GERD situation.
Yes, and to tell you the truth, my son had an issue where he had GERD really bad as an infant, and so obviously he got sent to a GI doctor, and I really did love this doctor. And he got to the point where it's like, I can't give this medication to him anymore because it's not going to be good for him. So we need to stop. So it's really good when doctors know when to stop it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so lucky that maybe a year later, I found the natural approach because my son never really wanted to eat. He never had hunger because it was just too
Mm,
painful for him.
mhm.
And this natural approach is what we're talking about, working with the gut with probiotics and other things, 90 essential nutrients. And it all of a sudden this kid's eating us out of house and home.
It's
So
fascinating that you bring that up because a lot of people don't actually make the link between an imbalanced gut and a lesser desire to eat food. It's
mhm,
fascinating because if you don't have a good balanced gut, you can develop food sensitivities. You
mhm,
can develop allergies. Allergies and
mhm,
food sensitivities are very prevalent in people who don't have a balanced gut. But when you don't have a balanced gut and the foods are not being broken down properly, this is the other thing that's important. Bacteria break down our foods. If it's good, healthy bacteria, those foods are broken down into the molecular structures necessary to go out and do the job at the cellular level.
mhm,
If your foods are broken down by bad bacteria, then those foods leave the gut, but not as good healthy molecules. They
mhm,
leave the gut as toxins and poisons. And that's where we start to develop issues like autoimmune conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, and
mhm.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and all of these problems. So if if you are looking to be healthy, you must have a healthy gut balance.
Yes,
And
you do.
that starts with making sure that the food that you're taking in is going to be broken down properly by good, healthy gut bacteria.
Yes, yes. And we're, so like we're saying, it's so important to have that healthy gut so that you don't have a leaky gut. If you think about it, it creates
Exactly.
inflammation too, right?
Oh, absolutely. What
Yeah.
is leaky gut? People say, what is leaky gut? Simplistically, the way I describe leaky gut is imagine at the cellular level inside the lining of the gut, you have a screen. And think about that screen as being a tightly woven screen. And if you have that tightly woven screen, only the tiniest little molecules can get through that tightly woven screen. If, however, that tightly woven screen is not tightly woven because of inflammation, causing a weakening of all the structures in the gut, larger than normal food molecules can leave the gut and get picked up into the circulation. That
Hmm.
candida can overgrow and get picked up into the circulation. There are so many things that leave the gut lining that shouldn't leave the gut lining when someone has a leaky gut. And so, what we need to do is patch up the holes, literally. And how do we patch up the holes? We patch up the holes by, again, rebalancing that bacteria in the gut and ensuring that that screen is repaired and those tight junctions are back the way they should be. And that takes a little time, but it takes a lot of probiotics.
Hmm.
And, we do the probiotics. We also consistently use a product that helps to get rid of the bad bacteria. And, a collagen will help to rebuild the structure in the gut. One of the things to keep in mind is the fact that the cell wall membrane between the lining of the gut and the rest of your body is one cell thick.
Right.
That's not very thick. And
No,
so if
it is.
we can repair that and keep in the gut, which should be in the gut, and allow only those very tiny molecules that are to build us to leave the gut, will be much better. But even when candida leaves the gut, for example, candida leaves the gut through these larger than normal holes in the system. And then that candida can take up residence anywhere in the body. People
Yeah.
will say to me, how does my gut have anything to do with my athlete's foot? Has everything in the world to do with your athlete's foot. If you repair your gut lining, you can clear up your athlete's foot. I've recently worked with a couple of women who actually had candida in the brain. Now, these were both women
Wow.
who, oh yeah, they were disabled. They were no longer able to work. They had blurred vision, ringing in the ears, horrific headaches. They were literally disabled and could not work. And it was finally determined that it was a candida overgrowth. The candida had crossed the blood-brain barrier.
Oh,
Sometimes, if you're unhealthy enough, your blood-brain barrier doesn't function like it's supposed to keep things out of the brain. So in both of these cases, it was recognized that that's exactly what had happened. They had candida in the brain. So we
oh,
put them on a good gut protocol, a good candida protocol, got rid of the candida, repaired the gut, and they're both doing just fine. So
that's
yeah, it can be done, but
yeah.
it takes work.
Takes work.
And yeah,
Because if you don't have a healthy gut, you also don't think clearly. So I can
that's
imagine
right.
you so having had mood problems and everything else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There's
wow.
such a strong link between the gut and the brain. And you mentioned it in the opening, the gut brain connection via the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a bidirectional pathway, and molecules leaving the gut go to the brain. If they're healthy, you're going to have healthy brain function. If they're not healthy, it's going to muddy up the works, as I say it. And you literally will not have healthy brain function. You can have brain fog, you can have all kinds of issues, all the way up to and including schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. There are a lot of diagnoses that were once thought to be strictly brain issues that we now realize start out as gut issues. And
Mm,
so, I mean, that's a whole lecture in and of itself, talking
yeah.
about the gut brain axis, because there's more and more research being done all the time. So
Yeah.
now what happens is the brain gets kind of mucked up, if you will. And
Mhm.
now all of the messages leaving the brain coming back to the gut they're inappropriate as well. And so people have horrific gut symptoms and gut issues as a result of this vicious cycle, this two-way, bi-directional pathway, and this vicious cycle of bad stuff going to the brain, bad messages coming from the brain back to the gut, and people just don't realize that it's my gut that's impacting me. When we
Yes,
talk about people who have, depression, bipolar disorder, things like that, I always go fix the diet, fix the gut.
exactly. Well, what are you sharing with my show audience today?
Well, what I'm sharing is my book. If anyone's interested in my book, I would be happy to send you a copy. The easiest way to get it from me is just to go to my website, which is drjconaway.com. So if you go to drjconaway.com, you will have access to the book there. And it's easy. The easy payment through PayPal can be easily done. But this book is a book that I wrote when I was finishing my naturopathic degree. And it was because this was my passion. This has been my passion for many years. And my backstory is that I learned so many years ago about the importance of a healthy gut when my son had issues. At the age of 2, he developed a horrible strep throat. It took 3 rounds of antibiotics to kill the strep throat. During the 3rd course of antibiotics, he developed a horrible diarrhea. So I knew he was having issues and having problems because of that. And I went to the pharmacy, got him some lactobacillus acidophilus. We stopped the diarrhea and we were doing pretty well. And subsequent to that, he developed a horrible eczema. And this was not a mild case of eczema. This was down his back, across his bum, behind his knees, in the bends of his arms, under his arms, in his scalp. It was horrible. For 8 years, we tried to treat this eczema. The doctors wanted to put him on steroids, and I wouldn't let that happen. I knew his immune system wasn't functioning properly. I know that steroids negatively impact the adrenal glands, so I wasn't willing to do that. And so I decided that we would try anything that we could think of that was not a steroid and not something that was going to negatively impact his adrenal function or further impact his immune system function. And so he was 10 years old when I finally sat down with a couple of naturopathic friends of mine. And the questioning was around antibiotics and had he ever been on antibiotics. And I explained what I had done. And I was told that giving lactobacillus acidophilus was good, but it was only a very small part of it. When we talk about the bacteria in the gut, there are many, many different strains of bacteria in the gut. Lactobacillus acidophilus is only one strain of good, healthy bacteria in the gut. So I was encouraged to put him on a probiotic product, make sure he was off all wheat and all dairy, because during the course of all of this, he was definitely gluten intolerant. I didn't realize at the time just how important gluten was, but he was definitely gluten intolerant. He ate rice bread most of his young life, and he was also lactose intolerant. If he had milk or cheese or anything like that, he would have what I call a flare. And so after talking to these naturopathic friends and making the determination that this is what we were going to try, I sit down with my now 10-year-old and I say, okay, I said, no wheat, no dairy. And he looks at me and says, yeah, what am I going to eat? And I said, you know what, Ma? Or you know what, son? I said, we're going to try this for a couple of weeks. And if at the end of 2 weeks we don't see significant benefit, then we'll start looking further for the answer. The way I tell the story, Debbie, is as God is my witness. Within 3 days, his eczema was so much better, I couldn't believe it. Within 5 days, the eczema this child had lived with for 8 years was gone. Literally
Wow.
gone in 5 days. What that said to me was a couple of things. First of all, it was pretty simple to fix if you know the fix. That was the first thing. But the other thing that it said to me was it's important to understand just how quickly those cells can turn over in the lining of the gut, and especially in a child. Okay. So this child takes probiotics all the time, has never had another issue. He's now almost 31 years old, has never had another issue with eczema at all. He's got beautiful skin, but it's because he takes care of his gut and he understands the importance of the balance of his gut. So as I said a few minutes ago, people will ask me all the time, what does what's going on my skin have to do with my gut? Has everything in the world to do with your gut. So that's why I became so passionate about this. And again, learning what I learned from that experience drove me to want to learn more. And so I started to study the gut and gut function with significant vigor back then. And I've actually lectured on the gut and gut function for over 20 years now. And it's because I am so passionate about people finally recognizing and understanding that a good, healthy diet and a good, healthy gut will go a long way toward making your life much, much better. Am I
Oh,
going to tell you? Oh, yeah. Am I going to tell you I can cure anything you have or I can cure everything you have? No, I'm not. But just as you point out in your opening, I'm not going to tell you I can cure you. But what I am going to tell you is in my experience doing this for over 20 years, I have helped so many people feel so much better. It's worth every bit of it. So,
it certainly is. And, I think that's a little bit of that story is in your book too, if I remember
yes,
correctly.
it is. Yeah. Yeah. Because that was, like I say, that was the driving force for me to
Yeah.
realize that in 5 days, this situation that my son had lived with for 8 years was gone. That
Mhm,
impacted me enough to say, "Whoa, whoa, no, wait a minute. If this can happen, what can this mean for other people?" And
mhm.
so it was very impactful for me, and again, that's what's driven my desire to make sure everybody in the world knows about it.
And one fun fact I've read from your book is that GMO wheat is worse than ancient wheat.
Oh, yeah, it is. But, it's
And
fascinating. Go ahead.
and we can't even digest ancient wheat in the first place.
No, 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 and that's what I was gonna say. It's fascinating that we now realize that we don't even have the enzymes in the human body that actually breaks down and absorbs even ancient grains. So, yeah, I mean, when you consider what we're eating now, and people say, "But I've eaten wheat all my life." And I'll say, "Yeah, and probably your gut's not very happy or healthy because you have eaten wheat all your life. You may not have the symptoms,
Mhm.
however, you have the destruction going on." So,
Yeah, and I've been telling people that it shortens your villi is supposed to be, like a sea
yep,
anemone.
yep, yep,
And what it does is it crumbles it down and makes it
mhm,
shorter. And you have
yep,
less surface area to absorb what you need to eat, even the medications
absolutely.
that you take, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that's the biggest thing about gluten. People don't realize, even if they tell me that they don't have symptoms, they don't realize what the gluten is doing. And you're exactly right. Those villi that are supposed to have significant surface area no longer have that surface area. So that definitely interrupts good, healthy digestion. And
Mhm.
so even if you don't have the bloating or the cramping or any other problems that many people have that are associated with celiac disease, you're not healthy. You're not absorbing your food. The other
Yeah.
thing too, one of the things that if people start doing a probiotic or get on a probiotic program, a lot of times they'll call me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I have this horrible rumbling and grumbling. I have this horrible smelly gas." And I'll say, "That's all normal. What you're doing when you start a good probiotic program is you're literally flooding your system with the probiotics and you're getting rid of the bad bacteria. So there's literally a war going on, if you will. And when that war goes on, people can, in fact, experience that rumbling and grumbling and that foul smelling gas. Just give it a break. Just allow it to happen for 4 or 5 days. And usually at the end of that 4 or 5 days, there's enough repair that's going on that you stop having those symptoms that are associated with it. But don't ever be concerned if you start on a good probiotic program. Don't ever be concerned that you have those rumbling and bloating and just uncomfortable gut issues. That's all part of it, and it's going to make it better on the other side.
And people don't understand that. So thank you for saying that today. They just don't understand that it needs to fix things, and
That's
sometimes we
right.
This thing is going to be kind of noisy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're replacing, and the other thing is, when we talk about the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and, without a slide and without, a picture to actually show you, there are specific areas on the cell wall membrane that these bacteria attach to. Okay. Now, the good bacteria and the bad bacteria compete for the same sites on the cell wall membrane. If
Okay.
you're fighting the bad bacteria by overflowing the good bacteria to create the balance, there is a battle going on. The bad
Exactly.
bacteria is being wiped out, and there's literally a battle going on. So, but I can't tell you the number of people that I've worked with that say, "Oh, I have had a 10-year history of constipation." They do the gut protocol, and they no longer have constipation.
Yes.
By the same token, I work with those people. This woman today that I was talking to, she said, I have had a 10-year history of diarrhea every time I eat. She
Oh,
said,
okay.
I started taking probiotics, and guess what? I don't have diarrhea every time I eat. So now she wants to do my program because she realizes that what I've been saying for all these years
Mhm.
is what she needs to hear. But I think the other thing that rang true for me when she and I were talking, she said, "Oh yeah," she said, "and what I realized with all the research that I've done is first and foremost, it's the gut." And I said, "Absolutely." And of course,
Yes.
that means eating a healthy diet. How do I keep a good, healthy gut? You eat a healthy diet. You've got to recognize that diversity is key. And by that, I mean you need to make sure that you're getting some good, healthy carbohydrate in the form of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Okay. You need to make sure you're getting healthy protein. You need to make sure you're getting adequate amounts of healthy fats. There needs to be diversity because your bacteria depend on that diversity.
Yes.
The other thing is recognizing that fiber is so critically important, and especially in the large intestine.
It
A
is.
lot of
It's
your
very much.
digestion, oh yeah, a lot of your digestion goes on in the small intestine, but the large intestine has to stay healthy as well. And what's going to keep that healthy is fiber. So roughage in the diet. Our parents and grandparents used to talk about getting plenty of roughage. Eating an apple and eating those vegetables and eating that salad and eating those things that would give you roughage, as they called it. Critically important. We've known
Yeah.
about it forever. But in today's world, today's society, everything is a prepackaged processed food,
Yes, it is.
and kids are not getting. I know kids who are in their 20s who don't know what an apple tastes like. And I'm
Sad.
like, "Oh, it is sad." Okay? I mean, it's horrifically sad in my opinion. They don't
Yeah.
know what it means to sit down and eat a salad. And
Yes.
so when you think about it like that, is it any wonder that we have so many kids that are so unhealthy? Is it any wonder that we are seeing kids in their late teens and early 20s with GERD as a diagnosis?
Yes.
They
I
don't have a
get
healthy gut. Their body isn't breaking anything down like it's supposed to because they've been mistreating their digestive system for all their lives.
it. Yes. So, I think this book would be a wonderful education tool for my audience to purchase. And I want to thank you for offering that for them to purchase. And there's a link there. She's already said it's www.drconaway.com.
drjconaway.com.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
drconaway.com. And I want to thank you for being a guest on my show. I hope you'll come back soon.
Oh, I would love to. And
Okay,
I'm just going to throw this out there. I would love to come back and spend a little bit of time talking about the oral microbiome.
that would be fabulous.
I'm here to tell you, I've studied the gut microbiome for many, many years. I've only recently started to study the oral microbiome and how fascinating that is in terms of the oral microbiome and its link to all other systems in the body.
Okay. Well, I do have to close down the show. So, thank you for being part of my show. And I'm going to start talking about the closing that I do with my offerings and stuff. So, stick around. If we have more time, I'll have a closing remark. Okay.
Okay.
So, thank you, Joanne. Dr. Joanne Conaway. Okay, so I am a certified holistic health coach. So I do help you revitalize your health by reducing symptoms, like I said before. I offer weight release coaching, mindset coaching, and guide you to a clean, toxic-free diet, which all that Dr. Joanne Conaway was talking about, with high, rich, dense nutrients. And you can contact me on my link tree, which is https://www.debi changes lives.com/linktree linktREE, and set up the consultation button and start asking me questions, because that's a place where you get to know me, I get to know you, and I can guide you to optimal health. And with my weight release programs, I have mindset coaching. So as you can see, I offer the Take Your Body Back program, which is a 12-week program for weight release and mindset coaching. I'll help you break and release those negative patterns and help you create a new version of you that you're going to use as a avatar board to drive you to succeed in your health and weight transformation. Also, you'll find Why Fast there, which is a intermittent fasting program that you can actually get information on, or if you need a little coaching, you could do that too. And that's part of that consultation button. Plus, I offer services, and I have 2 different Zyto body scans. And I prefer to use the Zyto link because it's a remote scan that I can do internationally. And so what I do is I send you a link to your phone, and you scan your face for 30 seconds. It looks at blood flow, and it sees energetic, functional, and emotional, and different body systems and lifestyles. It will give you a report of biomarkers out of range and products and services going back into range. And I do review it because it's quite extensive. A Zyto Link scan costs $50. If you move forward with my services, you get a $25 discount on my product or services, which we've already discussed. And there's also a package of 5 scans for the price of 4, where you can save $50. And people are so amazed at what this scan tells them. It is really accurate. So get your Zyto Link now. And at that same link tree, you can purchase my #1 best-selling book, Women Rising, which is a collection of many women's transformational stories, including my own. It's a great book for someone that's struggling, and because they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You get a copy for $20 or signed copy for $25. Once I get your email and payment, I'll send the book off to you. For a limited time, I have a complimentary service. It's a 30-minute coaching session. That's an intimate group setting where you get to pick a topic. The survey picks a topic for us based on popularity, and it's going to tell you how to optimize your health, how you can release weight, how mindset helps with just not only weight release, but also for health as well. And if you have any questions about how to create that avatar board to help you see your future self, it will help you with that, so that you look at it every day and you will achieve your health and weight transformation. It is on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, but you need to be registered to be part of this chat at https://bit.ly/bit.ly/D with a capital D and then EBI. That's how I spell my name. Hyphen and then coaching with a capital C. Everything else is lowercase. And chats with a capital C, and it's plural. It's all one word. Once you do that and you register, I'll see you there, and you'll see how I handle group coaching. And you're welcome to subscribe to my newsletter to find out about more information about alternative health, promos, events, and upcoming shows. And as a gift, I give you a 30-day health and mindset daily action journal where you can record your thoughts and gratitudes, feelings and emotions, as well as the food that you ate, the water you drank, and exercise you've done on a daily basis. Plus, you can track your measurements as well. This is a great thing to review on a daily, weekly, monthly basis so that you can learn and be aware of what you can do, celebrate your wins, what you need to do with your gaps, and if you need help getting over your gaps, I'm there for you to coach you. I am sure that you enjoyed this show and I found it educational and eye-opening. So continue to enjoy my radio and TV show, Debi Changes Lives, on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where your holistic journey begins.